And now's the portion of the meeting where we're going to give our director's report. This is a report from the directors of the board of Transition Salt Spring, and very excited to deliver that on behalf of everyone, the whole team, to talk to you a little bit about what we accomplished this year. So next slide as well. It was a challenging year. I remember a similar slide to this last year, which talked about atmospheric rivers and heat domes for the first time. And this year, thankfully, we didn't have any of these things happening, but we certainly had some things happening, namely BC's hot, dry September and October, as you know, broke several records with local weather stations all over southwestern British Columbia, breaking records, the first or second driest month on record. Now, October, if you'll recall, is supposed to be the fourth rainiest month of the year in British Columbia. So, and here on Salt Spring Island, I know in daylight, I can stare out this window here and look at the valley at this time of the year and see this pond in the McLennan Valley is supposed to be about this big at this time of the year. And right now it's looking awfully like a summer pond. So in the future, we're definitely going to have to get ready for these kinds of falls and whatever repercussions they'll have for pests and other problems with water supply. So many of you know, I'm looking at the people around the table, I think all of you know that our planet's atmosphere and oceans are heating up 10 times faster than at any time in the past 65 million years. This has been particularly noticeable in the past 20 years, with the 5 hottest years happening in recent memory, starting with 2014. Now, even a small temperature increase has deadly consequences. Since we started burning fossil fuels, the average global temperature has increased by 1 degree Celsius, which is in itself is causing a dramatic increase in the frequency of heat waves. And we felt that here as well. Now, Transition Salt Spring rebooted in a big way in 2021 with the release of the Climate Action Plan with its 250 recommendations to address the climate crisis. Now, it's not an overstatement to say that everything we do every single day at Transition goes back to this plan. And of course, we can't do it all. We're an NGO where we don't have the control the strings of government. In fact, we can't do most of that plan. We need our community and our leaders locally, provincially, and nationally to step up big time. And globally, we're simply not heading in the right direction. That's why you're going to see more of an emphasis on climate change adaptation advocacy, education, and initiatives in 2023. We simply have to get ready for the changes that are already underway. Fundamentally, that means getting better at working together in ways that might frankly feel for some of us even a bit uncomfortable. In government, that means working across silos and across jurisdictions. The Islands Trust and the CRD come to mind, for example. It also means making sure that our new local community commission that was voted in by majority in the last local government elections actually helps get climate action happening more quickly. For you and me, it's going to mean doing what we can on the home front, and making sure that we participate collectively in calls for change. Transition Salt Spring really wants to be there for you to help you do that. And we look forward to providing you with a lot of opportunities to get policies and programs approved that lower our emissions and help us adapt to the climate risks we're now facing. I'll tell you more about what we're planning to do in our advocacy a little later on in the presentation. But we can do a lot. We can generate momentum and influence the decisions that get made locally with our analysis, data, and the mobilization of our members to create the groundswell we need for change. We can also do real work on the ground with initiatives. I'm going to review some of those with you here tonight. But the fact is, governments here and everywhere at all levels simply aren't acting fast enough. So that leaves all of us here working together. I'd like to now hand it over to Darlene Gage, who will highlight some of TSS's big achievements from the past year. Darlene?
Thanks, Brian. So you can see from this next slide that's up on your screen, all of this engagement activities that Salt Springers have been engaged in. And it really, to us, shows us, stuff we already knew. Salt Springers really care about climate change. And that we're reaching a lot of people with our programs and our ability to hire professional staff to take on all of this work and engage volunteers to go out into the community and activate the community. I actually did some estimates recently, and it looks like we had a plus or minus 7,000 interactions with Islanders this past year, including at our educational events. We spoke with hundreds of people at the Fall Fair. The Climate Action Arts Festival was a huge piece of engagement for us this past year. Our views on YouTube of the videos from our educational events, our newsletter subscribers. We have a surprising number of people who actually read our newsletter, which for us, a nonprofit organization, is something to boast about. And those who've interacted with our Climate Action Coach program. That's pretty big reach. Check out these other numbers. So much activity and so much support. We're also building on last year's successes with the project on Mount Maxwell and Humetitsan in the watershed there, with a new $50,000 commitment to protect our precious source of fresh water in Lake Maxwell. We have a lot to be thankful and excited about. So on behalf of our board and staff, I just want to extend our deepest gratitude for your support. Honestly, it feeds us to receive your support because, as you all know, because you're all doing part of this work, sometimes it can be hard. And we're doing this out of our love for this place and our love for each other. One of the cool new things that's been going on this past year is a new office space at the Sims building, the Salt Spring Multi-Space, the former middle school. We're using that as a space for meetings, for gatherings, for learning, and for working. So I'd really encourage all of you to drop in the new year and say hello, or book a space for your meetings and educational events. We're happy to share that space in there. Been creating some employment opportunities for Islanders and growing our presence in the community through this publicly accessible space, which has been very exciting. We now have 7 core contractors in place, along with 2 short-term special project contractors in this past year. These are the folks that are busy working every day on your behalf. We also have up to another 25 contractors at any one time working on the Mount Maxwell project throughout the year under Ruth's direction. And of course, our board of directors, we've been so blessed to have this amazing volunteer board of directors. These hardworking folks have literally put in thousands of hours of work this past year. Doesn't that make you want to run for the board? So, and just as a reminder, of course, this past March 1st, TSS became a registered charity. So now donors can claim a tax credit with a donation receipt. In some situations, you can get a credit of up to around 40.6% of your donation back through that tax credit. And you can save even more by donating stocks, mutual funds, bonds, and similar investments through the Salt Spring Islands Foundation's newly created Climate Action Fund. It's a great way to also eliminate capital gains tax on these donated investments and still receive a tax receipt for the full market value of the investment. Brian, back to you.
Thanks so much, Darlene. So here's a little bit of a closer look at some of our large initiatives this year. And of course, our large one is probably not a surprise. It's the work we're doing on Humetitsan, the Cowichan name for Mount Maxwell. And I'm really proud of the work that we're doing in this watershed. I think the key thing to say here is to talk about partnerships and transformational change. We're working with the North Salt Spring Waterworks District here, and it's been a beautiful journey with them and with other partners as well. And as I noted earlier, Ruth and I are working very hard on a proposal right now to continue that work. And I'm super excited about what that will bring. Wish us luck. Now, we don't actually do projects to get accolades, but sometimes getting accolades, as Darlene was saying, really fills the belly and fills the heart. And I really, so a huge thanks to the Humetitsan team working up in that watershed because you've generated a project that's worth talking about. we've got here the UN Biodiversity Program highlighted our educational materials for this is the way you do educational materials on environmental issues. So that was really great to see. And Dr. Waldeck, Ruth, was up at UNBC and delivered a very well received talk on the work we're doing in our coastal forests, our representative coastal forests here on Salt Spring. And it's not to be left out. We also, CBC's featured us as well on the afternoon show locally, All Points West, but also in a downloadable podcast, part of a series called The Climate Changers that you can get on their website. Also great to see us get some mention there as well. Next up, and to top it all off, Ruth received the Islands Trust Stewardship Award this year. What a great honor for her and her team, who have really been working tirelessly to understand how fire and ecosystem health really do hold the key for Salt Spring's ability to withstand the growing threats of climate change that we're facing. In fact, Ruth was so busy on that mountain that she actually missed the award ceremony. So that's our Ruth. And with that as a bit of an intro, over to you, Ruth, to tell us a little bit about what's been happening up there, aside from you getting wet and very tired.
Thank you, Brian. Thanks for mentioning how busy I've been. And really, it's been a very exciting year. It's been a terrific year. And really, I appreciate all the attention that we're getting because, wow, do we have an amazing team. One of the things that I have to share with you is that in my entire professional career, I've always thought, how do these things work where you create a project and then everyone wants to join and you don't actually have to chase people? And that's what's happening in Huemetsim. So I'm getting contacted by people because what I see is there's a lot of knowledge in our community and people want to do something positive, as Brian introduced in the beginning. Let's do it. And so we started the Maxwell Project when we received notice about our funding, signed the contract with Environment and Climate Change Canada, November 2021, which should ring some bells because it was immediately around the time of the atmospheric river and not long following our massive heat dome. So it was really relevant. And of course, it was a great time to get attention and also to really get a good idea of what we were looking at in this system. So what the project is focusing on is really key priorities that came out of the Climate Action Plan to help us build resilience as a community, resilience in our forests to the changes that are coming, while we're also helping to mitigate emissions reduction. So our focus is on reducing the risk of fire, of catastrophic fire and the spread of fire. And we know that this is a major issue in the Gulf Islands, but let's face it, we all are forest inhabitants. We live in the forest. And so what we're doing is trialing methods so that we can transfer them to other parts of the island and the other Gulf Islands, and we can all take action. The other things that we're focusing on are restoring forests and watershed rehabilitation through restoration. And these really are two sides of the same coin, because climate change means we get more drought, means we get increased problems with landslides and washouts. And so beautifully, wetlands and watersheds and riparian areas are the solution to a lot of these things. So those are the priorities. And if you can look at the Climate Action Plan or visit our website to learn more about the project. Next, please. What really is exciting that came from this, and thanks to North Salt Spring Waterworks District, is that they are providing us with the opportunity to create what we're calling the Climate Adaptation Research Lab in the Maxwell Creek watershed, so also known as CARL. CARL, the idea of CARL is for us to work with partners and bring people in so we can explore and trial different techniques that we can use to slow the movement of water, to recharge our water supply, and also at the same time bringing back the qualities in our forests that help to make them resilient to fire. So we're in a really good position there. And I really want to acknowledge our Salt Spring Waterworks for that. Next, please. What I'd say is that what we're aiming to do really centers around trialing methods, a lot of which are available in the community. There's knowledge in our community and in our region and on other islands. So to bring people together and to work as a community to develop and trial strategies and show how we can protect our water supplies and reduce fire risk. So in order to do this, next please, what we're doing is we're really starting to build knowledge transfer. And you here what you see is Simona Tarona, one of my restoration students from the University of Victoria program. And so by bringing all these people together, what we're doing is we're all learning together and we're sharing and we're building capacity through this whole region to take action on climate change while protecting our forests and our water supply. So I'll just finish off with a couple more slides. What I want you to see here is that it's very exciting. This is what I think climate action looks like, that we're learning from each other. And I want to highlight in particular what Brian said at the beginning, the way we're doing things is different. And this project, I'm extremely pleased to say, includes tree fellers, it includes fire experts, members of North Salt Spring Waterworks Board of Directors, botanists, geologists, geographers, ecologists, water specialists, and permaculturalists. We have everybody participating in this, and it's very exciting. So I just want to finish off with one last slide where I show you our sponsors, who I also really want to thank for their commitment, their support, and their confidence that our community is doing the right thing in this area. And so I want to hand this over to the next really exciting program that's going on in Transition Salt Spring, taking action on our climate action plan. And that's to Morgan Fraser, the lead on our climate action coach program.
All right, thanks, Ruth. So my name is Morgan, and I run the Climate Action Coach program with Transition Salt Spring. Now in its second year, the Climate Action Coach program empowers you to keep doing your part about climate change in your own backyard. This program is for all residents and small businesses on the Southern Gulf Islands. We act as a hub for advice and information about the various local, regional, and national incentives that can reduce emission impacts and the environmental footprints of your home, the surrounding areas, as well as the impact of your personal daily life. There are a growing number of incentive programs available, such as how we heat our homes with heat pumps, from doors, windows, solar, rainwater catchment, insulation, and many more. But it can be challenging and honestly overwhelming to understand the process and where to go for the next step. The Climate Action Coach program helps to solve this problem by encouraging people to take the plunge and bring together our local suppliers with new customers to help greenlight their green projects. Together, the Climate Action Coach program brings Transition Salt Spring with local residents and suppliers to help fight climate change while saving your household energy and money, all while supporting our local economies. The Climate Action Coach program has served over 3,000 islanders with information and education on home retrofits and energy savings, as well as provided over $20,000 in local transition salt spring rebates, and saving over 58,000 US gallons in rainwater storage. Our program has run over 6 educational events with 644 total attendees joining live and over 1,000 replays online. As well as being a hub of advice about the provincial and federal rebate programs and offering connections to help you to get to the next step in your home upgrades, the Climate Action Coach program runs our own rebate programs. This includes up to $500 for rainwater harvesting for irrigation and a rebate for upgrading your old smoking wood stove to either a higher efficiency EPA 2020 new wood stove or a stackable rebate for upgrading from a wood stove to a heat pump. We regularly host webinars and educational events with local expert guest speakers to help our local residents, like you, make the most informed decisions about your home climate resiliency plans. The Climate Action Coach program is sponsored by local businesses that support climate action. So a big thank you to our sponsors: Whirlwind Heating and Refrigeration, Mowat's Home Hardware, Fresco Refrigeration, Home Design Center, and our new 2023 sponsors, Windsor Plywood and Barefoot Renewables. And a big thank you to our funders, Clean BC, Better Homes, Salt Spring Island Foundation, the CRD, Van City, and the Victoria Foundation. And with that, I will pass it along to Patty Perel, our member of the TSS board.
Hello, everyone. I am Patty Burrell, and I am on the TSS board, and I head up the engagement committee. And this year we had really incredible turnouts for our community engagement events this year, and wish to thank all of those who attended or followed the replays on YouTube, because there was much to be learned from these events, and all of the events that we have been putting forward help us take local climate action. And I wish to highlight some of our major events. They're always free to those who have financial barriers, and the replays are available on our YouTube channel. And we wish to also, of course, thank those who choose to make financial contributions in support of these type of programmings that we are hosting. Your assistance makes all of the offerings possible. One of our events that we had prior to this year's local trust and CRD elections, we held an all candidates forum with over 200 Salt Springers in attendance. It's a real positive indication that locals wish to hold candidates accountable over climate issues that affect our islands and our livelihoods. This is the first time that TSS has held an all candidates meeting, and it does mark as a turning point for TSS in getting involved more actively to advocate with our local leaders. The event highlighted issues related to climate change and also housing on Salt Spring. For at TSS, we know that many impacted by climate change are low income and those with inadequate or no housing. So we know, therefore, that working on housing is also a climate issue. And subsequent to this meeting, we have recently held meetings with the three newly elected leaders. And it's a beginning of a strong emphasis on political advocacy that TSS is taking on climate issues that affect our community. Another event that we held in March was a transportation solutions event. It's an engaging presentation of policymakers and key community leaders from the transport sector governing our islands. And a milestone from this event is that we established a relationship with the Ministry of Transportation and Infrastructure. And following the event, we won a commitment from the ministry to completely survey the route from Fulford to Vesuvius, which is an important step in securing a commitment from the ministry to build out the entire route for the Salish Sea Trail. So that's fantastic. And to respond to our island's food security in the wake of the climate change, we hosted two events. The Get Started event was an introduction to gardening offered by a local TSS volunteer, Lena Del Mar, and it was certainly received by the participants who were able to experience and see how a meadow of grass can become a productive garden using lasagna mulch layering. And the workshop helped participants to experience a new way of gardening that focuses on soil health, rather than actually growing the vegetables themselves, using, of course, organic gardening methods. And our Linda Gilkinson event had over 200 registrants. And although the impacts to the way we grow food and landscapes are certain to have challenges with our ever-changing climate, Linda really did help the audience understand how we can adapt. Unfortunately, we will be hosting this event again in the new year live over Zoom for those who have missed it. And TSS is also helping to support our local agriculture and permaculture community. Nick Adamson-Jones, he was a former board member of TSS, and Delvin Solkinson offered 3 in-person permaculture learning days this year and hope to host a full permaculture certificate program next year. TSS also helped promote a book launch by permaculture legend Rosemary Morrow, and it's available for viewing on our YouTube channel. I encourage anyone interested in landscaping or gardening to take advantage of any permaculture resources available to you, for not only will this knowledge enhance our landscapes, It will also help shift the lens in which you look at life. So to conclude, I wish to share that we at TSS are so pleased to have hired such a dedicated community member, Inga Mikkelsen, as our new education lead to help us further engage our community with new programming. So watch out for more in the new year. And then I wish to thank you. And Brian, I'm going to pass it over to you to highlight a few more activities we undertook this past year.
Thank you so much, Patty. And yeah, and a welcome to Inga and to Andrea Scanlon as well, who recently joined our team. It's been wonderful working with you so far and becoming part of the family here. So there are, we also worked in collaboration with other groups, of course. That's kind of our MO, and in support of their own climate action related events, including a bike rally for the Salish Sea Trail that Patty just spoke about, in collaboration with Adam Olson and his office, Island Pathways, and Salt Spring Solutions. Along with a rally calling on the federal government to end the delay on climate action, which was organized by local climate advocates, Ryder Bergerud, and focused on the human health impacts of climate change. And finally, we co-sponsored with the Salt Spring Nature Club and Stand Earth a film screening of Fracking the Peace, highlighting the terrible impacts of the natural gas and propane we use to cook our food and heat our homes. Maybe not so much here, but certainly everywhere else. And that's an incentive program in the making, I'd say, is getting people off their propane stoves. That'll be tough. Next, please. At TSS, we do recognize that climate change is hitting some people more than others. People who are low income or who lack adequate housing are already feeling the brunt of the storms, drought, and heavier raining seasons more than a lot of us. Think of it, if you can't, buy good boots to keep yourself warm or dry. That's why we bring a climate justice lens to our work. This past year, this has looked like a variety of efforts from reconciliation with First Nations and work to create more affordable housing on the island. On the reconciliation front, we engaged with the Wasanich Leadership Council to advance the Quanedal project through 2 funding proposals. We also engaged with the Kowutsin community during the On the Rise Climate Action Arts Festival that Darlene will speak about in a couple of moments, by having elders and cultural performers come home to Salt Spring to be on the land and share with those of us who have settled on their traditional territories. Some of our members, as I referred to earlier, also volunteered with members of many local First Nations in their marine stewardship work to restore clam gardens on our island. We see this as the type of work as key for all of us to learn how we can live responsibly and well on this land and do our part to heal the wounds of colonization. On the housing front, we worked in collaboration with Salt Spring Solutions and local leaders to ensure that Salt Spring is included next year in the speculation and vacancy tax. We have since heard that the Minister of Finance is now considering our inclusion next year as a result of our advocacy. This would put direct funds back into our community explicitly for more affordable housing right here in our community. It would also put a steeper price on building more large vacant homes on clear forested lands. On that note, I worked a bit volunteering with the Salt Spring Foundation on their vital signs survey, and I encourage you, next time you go to the library, they've got copies of the vital signs survey there. It's a really great snapshot of our community in terms of what's happening. And one of the key stats I remember is 1 in 5 homes on Salt Spring stands empty for most of the year. So that's something that we care deeply about, because that has a big climate change impact as well. And of course, transition was in full force at the Fall Fair this year, where we literally had hundreds of conversations with Islanders about our work and about what they can do and are doing in their lives to fight climate change. Now, I'd like to hand things back to Darlene, who led the charge on the climate action, on the Rise Climate Action Arts Festival this past September, and who, Darlene, can forget that wonderful parade.
Thanks so much, Brian. Yeah, there was a lot of activity going on during the month of September and in the year leading up to that Climate Action Arts Festival on the Rise. It was such a big part of our year in 2022. I'm really hoping that many of you attended at least some of this months-long arts festival. which focused our attention on climate action and climate change through a range of creative arts here on the island, which is, of course, one of our strong suits. We have artists aplenty on Salt Spring Island, and they were put to work during this month. As with all things of this size and scale, of course, we were only able to accomplish it because we worked in partnership with Graffiti Theatre and Salt Spring Arts, along with dozens of other local organizations who programmed a climate-related event during the festival. So we programmed a lot, they programmed a lot. So the festival had over 20 events taking place over the month of September, with over 1,500 people attending at some point during that month. It brought out a lot of new people who we know may not normally participate in these types of events, and engage them in a new way through their hearts and through their creative spirits. Poetry, dance, performance, visual arts, art shows, a big parade, an outdoor concert at the Mateata parking lot in collaboration with the great folks at the Mateata come to life. Grief circles, a virtual art walk that people went around and did downtown on their phones, scanning QR codes to look at art that was placed virtually downtown along the new high tide line that we're projecting will be taking place, the new king tide line downtown in Ganges. There were art workshops, there was Indigenous teachings on the land at Huaquam, all capped off with an awesome dance with Daisy, a diverse and inclusive Salt Spring Island called Pride on the Rise. So just tons and tons of activities to choose from through the whole month of September. It was truly an intersectional event with over 1,500 people participating. An incredible journey, and it taught us a lot about working in partnership and engaging people in creative ways in climate change work. We learned, of course, we knew that in our brains, but we learned it on the ground, that we can't just tell people about climate change. We need them to feel it in their bones and in their hearts. And it's this combination of the head, the heart, and the hands, the thinking, the feeling, and the doing that form the basis of the transition movement throughout the world. And we're really doing our best every day to learn how to put these values into action. So finally, would like to, as always, thank our sponsors for this particular event, Village Builders, as always, Country Grocer, the Salt Spring Island Natural Cemetery, Engel and Volkers, Jeff Hartle Real Estate, and the Salt Spring Exchange. And our funders were the BC Arts Council, the Berman Foundation, and the Salt Spring Island Foundation. We honestly could not do it without you. So back to you, Brian.
Brian, you're muted.
Classic, sorry about that. I have to say that Darlene is always my reminder and my anchor when it comes to remembering to wed together the head, the heart, and the hands. It's not just about what we do in our brains that constitutes climate action, but so much of it in the heart. And Darlene really does keep us on task and remembering to integrate those three. So thank you, Darlene, for your influence on me and on us collectively. We have some exciting plans for the year ahead, and while many things are still in the planning stages, we wanted to give you a sneak peek tonight at some of them. Starting with our Climate Action Network, but there's not a big, unveil to make there, but I just wanted to remind folks that the Climate Action Network is the earliest instance of advocacy that TSS engaged in since our reboot in 2021. It met quarterly this year with a focus on learning about the risks facing us from fire and drought, along with a chance to work together to identify our key asks of local government so that we can speak with one voice to push for urgent action together. It also serves the Climate Action Network, SSI Can, ! As a way for local groups to talk about their own priorities and for us to strengthen our bonds as we look at tackling the climate crisis together. Recently, just a couple of months ago, we met with more than 20 reps from local organizations to have a debrief on the local elections and discuss our shared priorities. I'm excited about what we can do together when we speak as one. And as I said at the outset, we are looking at amping up our climate advocacy in a number of ways in 2023. We're at the table in an ongoing way with the CRD, Islands Trust, and our local elected representatives there, North Salt Spring Waterworks District, and other local agencies to make sure that climate change stays at the top or moves to the top of the priority list for local decision makers. Sometimes it doesn't take a lot to get commitments from leaders to survey bike routes or to get them to consider taxing the many, many empty homes on Salt Spring, but sometimes it takes a lot. And so we're really hoping for your support this year as we push our local leaders to do more to protect our forests from fire, our watersheds from drought, and to work with us to lower our emissions. For example, one area where we'd like to grow is we think there's so much more that we can do with incentive programs to help islanders to make the switches we need to make to lower our emissions and make our homes safer. We're looking for ways to expand our offerings through the Climate Action Coach program by working with local officials. We all know that there are many things we can do to live more lightly on the earth, ranging from changing our diets, investing ethically, traveling less, or traveling electrically or with public transportation, and ensuring that the lands we steward are ready for the threats of fire, drought, and storms. The coach program and our education programs overall will be focusing tightly on how we can all pivot into this new challenging world where we all live more lightly. The Hamidison project will remain a big focus for us coming this year as we push the organizations that give us clean water and safe roads towards climate smarting our local infrastructure to protect it from storms, erosion, drought, and fire. We will also be reaching out to those who own big tracts of land to help them steward their own ecosystems based on what we've been learning up on the mountain. This past year, we hired a climate action report card project coordinator, Keisha Tolsma, with the help of the Salt Spring Island Foundation. She is right now collecting the data we need to measure how far we've come since the release of the Climate Action Plan in 2020 to meet our local climate goals. Stay tuned in 2023 when we release this report card, which will form the basis of our ongoing advocacy work for the next year. Let's hope for high grades. I know there will be some that will not be so high, I'm sure of it. And there are so many folks to thank for helping us out in this year, which was a really good one for us. Very busy, but a really good one. And here are a few that I'd like to highlight. How many of you save your grocery receipts from Country Grocer and deposit them in box number 7, right at the top, very visibly placed? Show of hands. I don't know if I can see them, but maybe Morgan can. We'll take a tally of y'all. I challenge you to cram that box full of your receipts. Special thanks to Joan Gage, or as she is often referred to, Darlene's mom, for keeping this income stream rolling and gathering those receipts. Whenever I put my receipts in there, it's pretty crammed, so that's great. So that is an income stream. It's a fairly small one, but it one nonetheless. And thank you so much to Country Grocer for making that possible. We have the wonderful Natasha Kong, who is our lead graphic designer, but sometimes she gets busy or maybe runs into logs when she's mountain biking. So we have the wonderful Carrie Debenham, who's a volunteer graphic designer for Transition, and we're really grateful for her help. There's often so much going on, and sometimes we just can't keep up. And Carrie has done some lovely work with us on short notice, like this ad for the great session we had with Linda Gilkison, and you can look forward to more of Linda in 2023 as well. Also, we must thank Andrea Palferman, who used to be on our board, but is really busy with Raven and an Indigenous issues group that launches legal defense for First Nations fighting cases in court. But she wanted to stick with us when it comes to writing the monthly One Cool Island articles that we have in the Driftwood, as you'll likely have seen. She's a singular and passionate voice. I love her, and she's a longtime volunteer with TSS. And Andrea keeps us all learning and growing, and with her insights and her deep caring. Thank you, Andrea. We hope you'll keep it up in 2023. And we all miss Una Duncan and her amazing energy. Who'd have guessed it from her energy that she has her own fitness business, and that was why she left us this year. She was our communications committee director this year, but she's looking at big time expanding her business, and that's taken her away from us for now. Hopefully we'll get her back after things settle out on that score. We wish you the very best, Una. We have Rob Lowry also to thank. He was our climate action coach before Morgan took the helm. And he brought a lot of expertise to the job, including his awesome video production skills, along with his very strong community connections. With Morgan Fraser now in that role, Rob has sailed off into actual retirement. But we still manage to get some of his skills from time to time when we need some video editing. So like our new thank you video that you will be seeing soon, thanking all of you for your help and participation in making climate action a priority in our community this year. So Rob, thank you for everything you did to build up the Climate Action Coach program, and really it's succeeding in large part because of your forging of new ground. And lastly, and certainly not leastly, Gail Baker, she did leave our board. We thanked her at the last AGM, but her parting gift to us was that she devoted literally hundreds of hours, just like a federal grant application, taking one for the team to make sure we achieved charitable status, which we achieved. Thank you, Mrs. Baker. You are truly a wonder.
I think
now Darlene's on mute.
Yes, thanks. I think all of us at TSS, we've really loved watching many of our hundreds of conversations with folks in the community bloom into real life partnerships. And it's been delightful to see that intersection of interest from groups as diverse as fire protection and the arts come together to do real work on many things that we need to do to fight climate change in our forests, in our buildings, in our cultures, our gardens, and more. So one of our theories of change here at TSS, as Brian has said, is that we need to work together if we're going to make the changes that we know are needed. So thank you to our partners for helping us learn, helping us grow, and helping us to have real impact. Our thanks also to our core funders and charitable partners. We love our volunteers, but without this kind of core funding, our work would have a lot less impact. So thank you.
Yes, and a very big thanks to our local community foundation. The Salt Spring Foundation worked with Transition Salt Spring to create this new climate action fund in the past year that Darlene referred to earlier, which is a new way that donors can give contributions of investments and securities along with cash. We're so appreciative to the foundation. You've supported us from the very beginning of this journey towards leadership on climate action. We really could not have done it without you, and would not have gotten to where we are today without you. So you have truly our deepest gratitude. I love our community foundation. It's an amazing enterprise.
Yeah, me too. But of course, we absolutely need to and thank our volunteers and supporters. Your work and help at events, rallies, meetings, all of the stuff is just so much appreciated. And your donations have just been incredible. This year, we've actually seen a huge spike in the numbers of folks signing up for and actually reading our newsletter. So a big thanks to everyone for tuning in and paying attention. But there's more that we need your help with.
Yes, indeed. There are actually 3 very specific ways that you can help. And if you don't already, I invite you to, or maybe implore you to, support our work to fight the climate crisis with real solutions that bring us all together. We have monthly donors ranging from $5 to $100 a month. So we hope you'll join us in becoming a monthly donor. And of course, please also, if you haven't already, sign up for our informative, almost monthly newsletter to find out more about all of our events and our offerings and our other initiatives. Lastly, it's that last thing, advocate. We hope to put that more front and center next year, which is coming down fast. We'll be reaching out to you in 2023 to ask you to lend your voice to campaigns that we run, perhaps in partnership with other NGOs in this island, to get real action on the climate crisis. And those are the 3 ways that you can support our work. And if you've never donated, please do consider giving it a shot. And if you've donated before, maybe a lump sum annually, consider dividing your donation into monthly donations. Regular monthly donations are the best way to help, as it gives us the funding we can count on throughout the entire year. And by supporting us in these three ways, our newsletter, your donations, and your voice, you make climate action stronger here on Salt Spring and across the region. And you also increase the likelihood that your asks, that our asks collectively get turned into policies, regulations, and programs that lower emissions and make our island safer in the face of accelerating climate change.
So today's a great day to start with the local climate action campaign. We're actually starting our holiday fundraising campaign, and our goal this year is to raise $20,000 between now and New Year's Eve. The best way to support us is to become a monthly donor, even at small amounts. These contributions ensure that we can keep our doors open literally. Most grant funds, as you all know, help us to deliver terrific projects, but they don't pay for our core expenses. So you can also give the gift of local climate action by making a donation in the name of someone that you love, or maybe even just like, and we'll send them a beautiful holiday card to let them know that a gift was made in their honor. You can start tonight, you can sign up for our newsletter, you can make a donation, and you can commit to support our advocacy in 2023. And honestly, we thank you so, so much.
Yeah, and it really is easy to donate. Just go to transitionsaltspring.com and click that donate button in the upper part of the screen. And in exchange, we all promise that we're going to continue to work tirelessly with you to take climate action on our lovely island home. And we have a whole lot cooking for 2023, my friends. And the more you support us, the farther and harder we'll paddle. Please join us. Thank you for listening. And we're going to pivot now, talking all about us, to talking about the folks in our working groups. We have a number of working groups. So I'd like an opportunity for all of you to hear about the wonderful working groups and what they've been up to this year. I really do love the work that these volunteers do for our community and for our ecosystems. There's the EV group with its dogged advocacy around electrified transportation, the Marine Stewardship Group and its sponsorship with TSS last year of the Wonders of the Sailor Sea, which was kind of like a big winter hit. And we hope it'll be the same again this year, right, Anne? Then there are the many tons of invasives plucked by the native plant group and the charcoal kilns that the new biochar working group is working on, thanks to a grant from the foundation. These folks are all passionate advocates for a healthier planet, and TSS is proud to support these groups by providing, really dull and boring but important stuff like insurance, governance, and financial accounting and services to help them focus on their core work. Now, to hear more, I'd like to invite my friend and my colleague, Deborah Miller, the host of many a board meeting, to tell us more.
Thanks, Brian. Yes, I totally commend the amazing work that the working groups have been doing for many, many years here on Salt Spring. Some of them are new, and we invite any newer ideas also to come forward. If you have a group that is willing or working in the climate crisis area and need some support from us, like insurance or some startup funds or some bookkeeping services, this is the kind of thing that we can provide. And these groups are semi-autonomous. We don't interfere in any of the works that they do, the amazing works that they do, but we hear about their work, and we're about to hear about some of them right now. And so first I'd like to introduce Jean Wilkinson from the Native Plant Stewardship Group.
Hi. So we encourage people. Should I start now?
Yes.
Okay.
Please
We
do.
encourage people to protect and plant native species in their yards and gardens and work to raise awareness about the benefits of doing, such as providing food to local birds and pollinators and other wildlife, the hardiness of the plants, and their drought resistance, which is increasingly important with climate change. We're also addressing the biodiversity crisis, the decline of native plant species and the spread of non-native invasive plants. We've gathered information and distributed resources at local events such as the Garden Club sales and on the Salt Spring Island Conservancy website. We've developed a list of fire-resistant native plants suitable for this area and hope it will be used as people consider ways in which to reduce the fire hazard on their lands. This resource is on the Transition Salt Spring website. It's a bit hard to find, but you can use the search tool and it comes up. We held 2 invasive plant drop-offs this spring with large amounts of broom, gorse, ivy, and holly removed from the landscape. We had the plants chipped at one location and gave the nitrogen-rich chips to local farmers. At the second event, we arranged for the material to be taken to the large composting facility in Cobble Hill. We hope that the local composter will be up and running by this spring, as that would reduce the use of fossil fuels to dispose of these invasive weeds. Jane Petch provided articles to the Driftwood about broom removal and the drop-offs, and notices were also put on the exchange. It's always gratifying to see how many people respond and appreciate these opportunities to clear away invasive plants. While there are still lots of these weeds disrupting the natural ecosystems on the island, we're seeing a gradual decrease in roadside broom particularly, and this is important in reducing the fire risk on the island. We're glad to have the fire department partnering with us. This fall, we removed the broom seedlings at our demonstration site on Long Harbor Road, and Jane wrote an article about that long-running success story. It's pretty wonderful to see the blue-eyed Mary, salal, Oregon grape, willow, ocean spray, and other native plants now thriving in an area that was completely infested and overgrown with broom 10 years ago. We had 2 community work parties this year to remove ivy in Mowat Park. Ivy smothers native species and climbs up trees, often toppling them. And when growing upwards, it produces copious amounts of seeds, which are widely spread, and they grow even in undisturbed forested areas. From each of these sessions, a large truckload of ivy was sent to the goats at Ruckle Farm to be eaten. So that's a pretty sustainable disposal method. In the spring, we were approached by the Restorative Justice Group, and we're happy to mentor and guide a few youth who did a terrific job of removing ivy from the trees behind the library. We attended an interesting workshop presented by a researcher who showed us newly developed system for killing yellow flag iris. The pilot project is on Miles Avenue near Bettis Beach, and we're hopeful it'll be effective and give a method others can use to tackle this invader of waterways. So more on that when we see how it works. We plan to continue all this work and outreach in the coming year, and we really appreciate being part of Transition Salt Spring.
Thanks, Jean. And we thank also the volunteers that bring their broom and gorse and come and visit us at events. So there are a lot of other people who are part of this group in some ways, and we welcome more. We're actually a small group of about 8 to 10 women, so mostly. Come and join us. Now, Rainbow Road Pool Allotment Garden, Shirley Ireland, tell us about your group.
Shirley, you're on mute.
Now, is that better?
Yes, perfect, Shirley.
Thanks. The gardens, you probably mostly all know, they're just beyond the pool. There's about 40 allotments, and some of the gardeners there are experts and some are just beginners. So we do a lot of learning together. Big concerns around water, conserving water, and soil building, improving our soil and outputs that way. We had a great workshop this spring by Nigel Kay on soil and compost building, and really it's made a big difference in our output. So that's been it was really rewarding for us. In the summer, our focus actually changed towards an invasion, if I could call it, of knotweed just to the north of the gardens in the CRD parkland. We've been working with parks on that, a few discussions, and understand that their plan is to use glyphosate on that invasive weed. So we are certainly trying to encourage an alternative approach. We'd like to see that they don't use the glyphosate anywhere, actually, but at least say within 50 feet of our garden. But that work is ongoing with CRD. We're finding it's a bit slow, but you know, we'll just change our strategy a bit and try and make some strides working with them to see what we can do to get them to choose something else. Our water use this year went down 31%, and that was a great surprise. There was no, what do you call it, heat dome this year, but there was lots of drought, and we're really pleased. I think one of the things was way more mulching than we usually do, and lots more education around how to water. And anyway, we have a couple of drip lines too, a couple of the allotments with drip lines. I'm not sure if that had anything to do with it, but that was really encouraging. The number of gardeners on our wait list has also gone down hugely this year. There's usually been you know, maybe 13 people on a wait list waiting for an allotment. And that's been consistent for the last 3 years that I'm aware of, but we now have 2 people on our wait list. So we're really, you know, hoping to be able to encourage more folks to come forward in the spring, and we'll hope to accommodate new gardeners. So that's exciting. We did participate this year in the garden club, the Salt Spring Island Garden Club tour, and also the rainwater collection tour this year. So it's been a good year. Our focus next year will be dealing with the knotweed and hopefully coming up with a great acceptable alternative plan to the glyphosate use. I think that'll be our focus. And yeah, I also just want to say how much we appreciate the support and the encouragement from Transition Salt Spring. Yeah, we really do appreciate that. So thank you to everybody.
Thank you so much, Shirley. Jim Standen will tell us how the electric vehicle group is progressing.
Hello, everybody. I'm the team lead of the electric vehicle group. I started 10 years ago when there was a Leaf and a Miav, almost no cars, and it was more like a hobby type of weird guys, and it's gone crazy now. If somebody could share my notes on the screen so I could refer to them. The world has gone absolutely nuts with electric vehicles. We went from almost nobody making them to almost everybody making them. There's ads on TV, which were non-existent even 2 years ago. And a lot of the incentive is for environmental reasons, not necessarily, you know, avoiding the price of gas, which is really up there, but it's not what everybody goes for. And an example is the European Hyundai Ioniq 6, their new model sold out in 24 hours. So, you know, it's crazy out there. 2-year wait list is normal to get a new EV now. To the point where there's large trade shows coming, and the largest one in the world, the fully charged show, will be in Vancouver for 3 days next September. This is a really, really big event. If you're into the future of transportation, you might want to be there. It'll be way more than cars. It'll be boats, planes, maybe even ferries. So that's the big picture. For us, though, I have 10 volunteers. They're highly talented people who are devoted to education and infrastructure. We had a banner year where, if we look at ICBC statistics, our growth rate went from 282 vehicles on the island to 380, which is a 40% growth rate. You can see it on the chart here. The chart shows where we were intending to go, and there's a little blue bump with this bump even sticking out a little bit more. We're actually a little bit ahead of our projections, which is really good. We think we might be able to hit the CAP 2.0 2030 emission goal, but it's a wait and see kind of thing. You know, the world can change. There's pandemics. There's all sorts of things going on. We could just slide this up a little bit, just to see what we did. Primarily we're an education thing. I answer the phone an awful lot and answer people's questions. That's what my team does. But we also helped create and sponsor the web transportation system at the start of the year. We've produced articles and cartoons, not us, but cartoons are showing up in the media. I've got further on down a couple of examples. We've hosted green drinks quite a few times. That's where people get together and share a drink and talk about anything to do with climate action. But we've sort of done cars mostly, but anybody else is able to take over and do any kind of event they want. We were at the TSS booth at the Fall Fair with Darlene and others. That was kind of fun. We worked closely with the climate action coaches, which was Rob during his time, and now Morgan. We're going to be working with her. We participated in the vital signs report that was mentioned earlier. That was an update from our previous report the year before. Because of the pandemic, people are still nervous about getting too close together. So rather than physical groups, we initiated an Ask an Owner program where somebody can connect with an existing owner of a car and they can safely talk in their yard and learn everything they want to know about Porsche Taycan or something like that. And we've already started working with Cassia on the report card that Brian was talking about a little while ago. We think we have some pretty good statistics that will go into that. So the other thing we do is infrastructure. So we've been encouraging the expansion of a level 2 network of free chargers around the island. Level 2 are lower speed, but they're free for you to use. And so this year we successfully replaced the Island Savings public charger with the help of Aaron Williams, a local real estate agent that sponsored it. We've been involved with the iWave project with sponsors, again, real estate agents Kelly Reagan and Julian Bruce. We assisted the CRD and Carla Campbell with kind of a survey on potential DCFC sites. And she was reporting back to Victoria. Now, DCFC are much higher speed and you pay to use them. And so there is a business case for those on island. And so we're working on that. There is a level 2 coming to the swimming pool for the allotment gardens. Don't know when it's going to show up. And we're exploring other opportunities for DCFC charging. For those who need the gas station model, just plug and go. We do have some resources that are available, but we did a loan of $5,000 for home charger installations through TSEC, and I believe TSEC is going to be talking tonight. So there we are. That's what we do.
Thank you, Jim. And Marine Stewardship Group with Ann Parkinson is next. And I just remind us that we're a little bit behind. And I know these transition working groups do so much that you can hear, but we're trying to make our reports a little briefer, perhaps, if we can. Thank you. Ann.
Okay, good evening. Well, we had a great year and now I'll say goodbye. How's that? No, all right, a little more. Okay, so we just completed year 2 and with many successes, which I'd like to outline if I have some time. So our goals, though, continue to be to explore all aspects of the marine issues around Salt Spring and within the Salish Sea, because really there's no focus on Salt Spring on the marine environment, and we live obviously surrounded. So that would involve assisting in lowering the carbon footprint and of the humans on land and that affect the marine environment, build capacity to monitor what are our impacts. And through outreach, we'd like to, we should enhance the health of the Salish Sea. So we seek, of course, like all the groups that you've heard tonight, to foster connection and collaboration, lots of education, hopefully lots of enjoyment, and some action and advocacy. So there's sort of 2 components that I've been taking approaches. One is outreach for sort of all of the Salish Sea, including Salt Spring. So one of them was this Wonders of the Salish Sea course that Brian mentioned. So last year, what a roaring success. It was actually its 6th year, I think, of being presented, but because of Zoom coming into our pandemic world, Transition Salt Spring, I hooked up with the founder of the course, and thank you, Transition Salt Spring, provided the technical, advertising, bookkeeping, very helpful to the founder of the course. And so we had 250 people register. We had 8 presenters, 4 evening webinars, and then we hooked in local field trips around the Salish Sea to enhance that. So we're already this year set the dates for late March, April. We've had a busy fall. We've got all the dates set, all the speakers booked. The poster's almost finalized. We are roaring. So please submerge yourself. Come and join us this spring and learn about everything from large to tiny, octopus to whales, forage fish, phytoplankton. It's going to be a great session. So hope to see you there. So the other broader Salish Sea item was called Fellowship of the Salish Sea. And I swim with the seals, which is a group of mostly women, wetsuits, mask, snorkel, and we swim all year round for 1 kilometer an hour off many places around the island. So one of the seals sort of had this idea. She's a filmmaker, and she put together this short 10-minute film, which Marine Stewardship helped sponsor and advertise, and it's sold out the Fritz Theater. And the film has been submitted to 14 film festivals around the world, and so far has been shown in Iceland, an area, Num Underwater Film Festival in Bosnia and Herzegovina as a quarterfinalist. And we had a Zoom presentation, and 80 people signed up for that. So it's just been great to advertise what is needed in the Salish Sea. And the Driftwood, you know, we keep in touch with them. So World Ocean Day, June photo, pick it up, sponsored by the Driftwood Cleaning Beaches. So the other section is trying to do some restoration and outreach specifically in Fulford Bay. And that's involved both a Facebook group, which has over 80 participants now, so we can educate and we can be guardianship eyes on the bay. So we can see, are there derelict boats happening? Is there suddenly a big tube of styrofoam appearing? Like what can we all do to enhance and watch for salmon? Is there any salmon? Are we, you know, doing anything that we can, everything we can to keep the bay healthy? And we did a little fundraising. Bryony Penn very kindly donated her annotated map of Fulford Bay. And so for $30, please, if you would like a copy, it's beautiful. And that has acted as some fundraising. And then secondly, we have launched into a water quality sampling pilot, because really, we're all guessing, is the bay healthy? Is it not healthy? Who knows? And of course, a lot of that comes from the stream input. Fulford Bay has 7 watersheds that drain into it. So how are those streams doing? So along with John Milson, an amazing freshwater catalog hero, and Salt Spring Island Water Preservation Society, thank you very much, donated. And so we've been able to start 3 water quality session monitoring of various elements, which I will keep you in touch with next year when we get the final results. But also helping with that is the Gulf Islands National Park crew, several very wonderful young guys who are employed and are associated with the First Nations tribes. So I, as stewardship, do not connect with them directly, but the Gulf Islands National Park people bring them in. And we've had some wonderful meetups, including, as Brian mentioned, we initiated and got the clam garden monitoring and enhancement going. Also with that is Rain Coast Conservation has joined us in this water pilot. And they're part of the pollution tracker group, and that's Peter Ross. And he's just been unbelievable helpful on the biologics and the toxicology that we are doing for the area. So just last quickly, we did keep in touch with Dead Boat Disposal Society. Oh my gosh, the number of derelicts in Fulford Bay, it's just such an issue. And we're beginning a biodiversity plan. I just spent today with the forage fish specialist from VIU. And we did 4 beaches here just to learn, how do you sample for forage fish eggs? Do they spawn in our harbor or don't they? Around the bay. And we will be doing some seabird data. That's just starting, because the drop in seabird populations is just astounding over the last decade. Why is that? Why is the harbor struggling? Where are the open freshwater streams? Why are they being culverted, bridged, and narrowed? So we need to get at the bottom of some of that and do everything we can to keep the harbor and the bay as healthy as possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne, for your hard work. And Brian Smallshow is going to tell us about the biochar working group.
Hello, everyone. I'm Brian Smallshaw, and I'm a lead person on the biochar working group. I am advocating for the use or the making of biochar especially from limbs and branches and things that come down in the wind. Hi, I just got unmuted again. Was I on mute? At any rate, I have been advocating for the making of biochar and turning material that people typically burn off in burn piles in their yards. And instead of doing that, and in my view, just wasting a resource, burning them in an open cavity kiln and turning that material into biochar, which is charcoal for soil amendment purposes. So charcoal that you can use in your garden or orchard, or in my case, I'm spreading it in my forest to try and improve the to build soil and improve the moisture retention qualities of the soil, because I'm suffering from trees that are dying in the summer droughts, trees that are 100, 200 years old. So to do this, we use these kilns that I have been building, one shown in the picture here. And I just delivered my 18th kiln on the island to Wave Hill Farm. And about 6 weeks ago, we got a grant from the Salt Spring Foundation to build 3 kilns. And this is a thing that I'm pretty excited about, to have loaner kilns that people can borrow so that they can use them on their own properties and don't need to own one themselves. They can borrow one and use it for a week or two and then pass it on to somebody else. And so we received a grant from the Salt Spring Foundation to build 3 of these. And the first one is just been finished, and 2 more to go. And I've also had the donation of a trailer. Bob Mackay is going to buy a small trailer that we're going to have available so that to make transporting these easy and people can carry them from wherever they're hosted to wherever they live and to use for a burn. I have held numerous workshops on the island on making biochar, 3 earlier this year before summer during the burn season, and I'll be holding another one coming up this Saturday at Jerry Alton's place here in the South End, 125 Stevens Road. Everybody's invited, 1 p.m. Just come if you can make it. And it'll be about a 3-hour workshop on the making of biochar. That's, I think, about it.
Thank you so much, Brian. Now we have another group which is not a working group, but rather associated with Transition Salt Spring, and that's a Transition Salt Spring Enterprise Co-op. And we welcome Nora Laird, who will tell us about their work this year.
Thanks, everybody. I just need to pull up these slides. Hold on. Sorry.
So you'll want to go to slideshow and start your slideshow if you can. at the top, you'll see in the middle, it says slideshow. Click on there.
But unfortunately, the Zoom is
Okay,
blocking that. Oh, here we are. I'm sorry.
we can
We
still
had this
see.
worked
the
out before. So just to start things out, I'm Nora Laird, and I'm slideshow from beginning. Okay, let's try that. Is that working? Can you see it?
Perfect.
Okay. So I'm Nora Laird, and I chair the Transition Salt Spring Enterprise Co-op, and it's a organization that was started 11 years ago by the Transition Salt Spring founders, members of TSS at that time. And I actually want to just start with a personal story that exactly a week ago, in the windstorm that happened, 3 big branches came down and knocked out the mast on my house and knocked out all of my electricity. And it's only today that I got electricity back. And in that time of darkness, shall we say, it's a really good time to reflect on what does resiliency mean for us personally in our homes, and what do we need to do to make sure that we too can survive in the event of catastrophic events on our island, which could be anything from fire to windstorms to, who knows what, with climate change approaching here. Not approaching, it's here. So the reason I'm bringing this up is power, internet down, no water, the pumps weren't working. Fortunately, I have a good fireplace, although if I had a heat pump, then I would not have had any warmth. It's an interesting question. So the reason I'm bringing it up is that we at the TSEC, the Green Loans Group, have a couple of ways that we can help you. So thank you, whoever just did that. So we have 2 streams. We have business loans for businesses and also for organizations on the island. And then we have climate action loans for individuals to upgrade homes and water storage tanks, heat pumps, and in particular EV chargers this year. With the loan from the EV group, we've been able to set aside a particular fund to support anybody who would like to borrow up to $5,000 towards the climate action loans are up to $7,000 now. And the interest rates are very low. It's not much lower than the banks these days. And it's an opportunity for people to put in place the things that will help them become more resilient, and EV chargers being an important part of that. Thank you, Jim, and your group. On the other side, we've had many loans, and let me see if I can go to the next slide. Sorry, I'm actually still in shock from only having my power back a couple of hours. It's been quite a week. So we've had many projects, and over the past 11 years, our 100 or so members have loaned up to $200,000 for these projects, and they are repaid with the money that comes back from the borrower, who pays a small interest rate and repays the loan in a scheduled way. And these loans have been up to about $30,000. My message tonight is yes, we've had successes. Yes, we're working with Transition Salt Spring, and thank you for all of the incredible support given by TSS. The challenge that we face is huge, and our Green Loan Group is here to try and support the projects that need to be done to meet the CAP goals. And that means we need to think bigger. And we're engaged in the process now to position ourselves, to position TSEC to be able to go for larger loans, to be able to support larger projects, for the groups that want to go for larger loans. And the question is, who are the proponents for the projects that we can support? And we'd like to hear from you. And that's really, if there are projects out there that could use additional support, it's a loan, it's not a grant, but it is a way to to secure financing for projects at a very, very competitive rate. And as well, we have mentoring that goes along with that. We have a really experienced board of directors who have a great deal of support in business and mentoring for projects. So that's my message. But if you have a project, come and talk to us, please, and we'll see what we can work out. Thanks.
Thank you, Nora, and thank you to all the working group chairs who are here tonight. And I know we took a long time, but we are doing amazing work. So thank you all. You are doing amazing work. Back to you, Brian.
Well, thank you, Deborah. Thank you for your work working with the working groups. It's great meeting with them on occasion, just catch up how they're doing and see where they need help. And they're on fire. It's great. Actually, I have beside me the fundraiser that Anne talked about. I still got to get the damn thing framed, but there it is, sitting by my desk waiting to be framed. And it's great. I mean, I love the work that everyone's doing. Now, all of this was awesome, but it actually was a formal part of the meeting. So if I could ask Morgan to end the recording at this point, and then we'll go into a more official part of the business.